Good evening, Chicago. Happy Friday. This is your Friday night host for Chicago Corner, Jerry Vasilatos, coming to you from the north side of Chicago as we cover the news, people, and events across the city that make this hopefully the greatest city in the world, at least the second best, as we've noticed from a recent article that we're going to talk about towards the end of the show in regards to Chicago standing against other cities across the country. So it's going to be a good show tonight. I'm going to try to stop saying Very, very conscious of that in my delivery. As the show starts up also, I want to wish a very, very, very happy 19th birthday to my beautiful, brainy, and talented niece, Martina Vasilatos, who's turning 19. I don't even know that she's watching, but I'm going to make sure to send this to her afterwards to let her know how proud we are of her. She just came back from her first year in college. She's here for the summer. I hope I get a chance to see her. But today is her birthday, and I wanted to let her know I was thinking about her and very proud of her. So, Martina, when you see this, happy birthday, girl. We love you. Joining me on tonight's show are my colleagues, Mr. Kit Cabello.
From the south side of Chicago, and also happy birthday to your niece. I hope she's going to have a fun time here somewhere in the city of Chicago, and all the best. I'm really looking forward to today's show, especially one story in particular, but I digress. I've said enough. So glad to be here, Jerry.
Thank you, Kit. We wish her a fun summer, most importantly here in Chicago, a safe summer. And Mr. Ed Heller, who's not a disembodied voice tonight. He is with us live, chowing down his deep dish pizza.
As he should.
We would have it no other way, other than having some on our end also to enjoy with him.
It's thin crust today, Jerry.
Oh, is it thin? Okay.
We also like the tavern style.
We like all styles of Chicago pizza.
Happy birthday to all people having birthdays today on this Pizza Friday.
I'm especially excited today, guys, and I'll tell you why. I got the perfect haircut yesterday. So often, the other stylist I go to cuts it way too short, and I went to a different place, and I want to give a shout-out to Raul at Mario Tricosi. He got it right this time. I'm very, very happy because, I'm very, very conscious, and it just kind of adds to, I can present a really good show tonight and hopefully look good doing it. So, thank you, Raul, for your haircut.
Yeah. Thanks, Raul. Should we have you do a spin for the audience, or do you think it'll break the stream?
Let's see.
Oh, yeah.
When I was doing the Chicago Corner Can TV show on Tuesday, I happened to kneel down as we were setting up the cameras, and I had forest growth of curls in the back, and I normally don't see that. So I thought, haircut time, but I got to try a new place. So, Oreo. Here we go with the ums. So, guys, we've got a really big show tonight. What's that?
Oreo's one of our official producers. He's letting people know that he's here.
He'll just wander in whenever he sees fit to correct something or get in on the action. So, guys, what's been going on with you guys this week? Anything exciting for me on before we go into the show?
Well, I'm really happy with our interview that we did with Jimmy Dore. We saw him at Zany's.
Yep. That was a lot of fun.
It was great. Ran into a very old friend of mine that I knew from high school that I haven't seen in like over 20 years. So that was something. Great time hanging out with Jimmy Dore, Steph. We were actually in the Jerry and I were in the green room at Zany's. I know that you gave Jimmy Dore an awesome gift package for him and Steph to enjoy, especially your film as well. And I
want to promote what I gave Jimmy and Steph. I don't know if he's going to use it on the show, but number one, I gave him one of our Chicago Corner mugs, and number two, I gave him two mugs. One that is a Twitter icon with Cenk Uygur, and it says "Cenk blocked you," and the other mug was "Anna blocked you." And you can go to www.cafepress.com/young-turds, young TURDS, and you can not only get your own Anna blocked you or Cenk blocked you on Twitter mug, but you can get a Cenk blocked you plush animal stuffy that stuffed animal plushie that represents his love for animals. And you can also get the official Anna Blocked You thong for your girlfriend that's got the Anna Blocked You right there in the front. I told Jimmy, I said, Jimmy, I was tempted to get the thong for Steph, but I didn't want to insult you. But I figured you'd have a sense of humor about it. And he laughed. But I stuck with the mugs. So Cafe Press / Young Turds.
And we also ran to Caleb Maupin as well. So there we go. He was pretty cool. We had a very good night. So there we go.
You know what else was cool? When we came out of Zany's, people recognized Kit. Thank you.
A lot of people.
And then one person in the line said, "Hey, Chicago Corner." I'm like, wow, that's cool. They don't know my name yet, but at least they watch our show.
Yeah.
How dare they?
Wow. That was so
I don't mind. That was good enough for me, as long as they know we're here.
Yeah, so there we go.
So we got in the live chat tonight. We got Art Medina. Art, thanks for joining us. Ilhanner, Miguel H. The loyal crew. Our loyal crew is here tonight. We got 11 people in the live chat. And as always, if anybody's got anything to contribute to our stories, please chime in. You're also welcome to send us a super chat that helps towards our streaming costs and other operational costs here at Chicago Corner. Let's get on with the broadcast.
Yes.
And the
one
stories.
other thing too, Miguel H., you're not getting a break.
And I've already said in the chat, I will help Miguel H. with graphic support if he needs help cleaning up the art. But I'm not doing your homework for you. You got to do it yourself.
We have an awesome graphic to go with the first story that I want to thank Ed for creating. Boom. It's Lori Lightfoot's European vacation.
Oh, no.
So the mayor on July 7th, the mayor's office released a press release, July 7th. Mayor Lightfoot will travel to London and Paris to highlight Chicago's thriving economy. Second international trip to tout Chicago's fintech ecosystem and diverse economy, and to promote the city as a world-class destination for visitors and businesses. I only wonder if some of the financial relief that she's going to give these companies that she's courting will be bulletproof vests and extra security details. All right, so this came from the mayor's press office. Let me bring that screen up. Here we go. Mayor Lori E. Lightfoot will lead a delegation of city officials and business leaders on a 5-day trip to London and Paris from July 11th to July 15th. So she got back today. The mayor will meet with city and business leaders to discuss Chicago's economic recovery, inclusive economic development, and continued growth and expansion. She will also speak at FinTech Week London 2022, the leading event for the fintech community to tout Chicago's fintech ecosystem. 2021 was a record-breaking year for fintech in Chicago, mirroring trends seen globally, where the overall industry reached over $130 billion, more than double the previous year. Chicago has established itself as a hub for fintech companies looking to grow. According to World Business Chicago, the concentration of financial and insurance talent in Chicago, oh, by the way, fintech, financial and tech hub is what that stands for.
Yeah, I was thinking something along the lines of, fish-related businesses.
Yeah, all those alewives that they can collect from the Chicago River and Lake Michigan. No,
you bring your shark here to Chicago. We will add some fintech.
The concentration of financial and insurance outperforms the national average, driving strong interest and investments thus far in 2022. 5 Chicago fintech companies had exits valued at least $730 million. 16 Chicago-based fintech companies raised $479 million in venture capital, and 10 local fintech companies raised $53 million in seed funding. I find it interesting regarding the 5 that had exits valued at $730 million, which means if they exited, they came in, took advantage of the tax breaks, and then left at a profit. That's how I'm reading that. Would you guys think I'm reading that right?
Do you think Citadel's included in that?
Be interesting. Well, I would say with Citadel, it's in the billions. I don't know if it's in the millions. It's got to be more than that.
Well, we don't know how much they're actually reporting to the IRS as actual profit either.
Very good point. Chicago's economy is thriving, and our business sector has set records, keeping us competitive with the top global financial cities, said Mayor Lightfoot. On behalf of our world-class city, I'm thrilled to lead a delegation of city officials and business leaders to London and Paris, where I look forward to discussing Chicago's economic strength, speaking at FinTech Week London 2022, and learning new ideas to further develop our business community and economy, and also brag that I've got the biggest dick in the city.
And why wouldn't you want to come to Chicago? I'm going to have 2 beans. There's going to be 2 here, not just the 1 bean. We're going to have 2. Anyone in Europe would be envious to work in a place with 2 beans.
Well, Ed, it's a good thing you brought that up, because I'll tell you why people wouldn't be excited to come here. Boom! Downtown violence is through the roof, but Chicago's top cop refuses to talk about it because it's a divisive conversation.
Oh, wow. How can that not be taken out of context?
I just enjoyed doing that story transition while she's touting everything that's great here. While she's away on her little vacation, this is what the rest of us have got to deal with here. Chicago violence is through the roof. After another violent weekend, I shouldn't laugh. It's the irony that just causes me to chuckle. After another violent weekend in River North about 10 months ago, now this is reported July 13th, which is a couple days ago, local Alderman Brendan Riley of the 42nd pleaded with Chicago police leadership to get this shit under control. Since then, the Chicago Police Department has restricted nighttime vehicle traffic in some downtown entertainment districts. The Cook County Sheriff's Office has established a substation on Clark Street. And the number of shooting victims in River North has risen 175% from where it stood last year. Since January 1st, 20 people have been shot in the neighborhood, 2 fatally. There were 8 victims as of this date last year and 4 in 2020. Shootings in nearby areas, such as the Loop and the near North Side, are also up sharply this year compared to last year's already elevated levels. So, while people are getting shot in Chicago, Mayor Lightfoot is off fiddling in Europe. And, of course, the story, there we go. Via CBS Chicago. Mayor Lightfoot visiting London and Paris to promote Chicago's economic recovery. Because that's all she cares about. That's all anytime she leaves the state, anytime she leaves the country, it's to fundraise or draw more business here for the downtown sector, not dealing with these crime stats we're looking at right now. Although in her mind, she thinks she's dealing with it by shoveling more money to the police. That's not the solution. That's just a reactive response, not a proactive one. Ilhan R. shares in the chat, violence in my city is going through the roof. Homicide is up in my city. I hear about shootings every week in my city. As we do here, Ilhan. Oh, by the way, I got your emails. I do want to coordinate to bring you on sometime. I apologize. What's that?
Just a little bit of lag on your video.
Yeah, probably because of the different windows I've got up. So let me pull this one down and just kind of reorganize on this side. So, gentlemen, your thoughts on Mayor Lightfoot's European vacation, courting economic development downtown while continuing to be completely tone deaf about where some of the money from that economic development should go, and it's not the police department.
Okay, well, Mayor Lightfoot has time to go on vacation while her citizens are struggling to make ends meet. Mayor Lightfoot has time to live out her best life while Chicagoans are being evicted from their homes and apartments. Gas prices are through the roof. Homelessness is rising up. Crime and violence is rising up. Corruption is running unchecked. Police corruption is running unchecked. But Lightfoot has time to enjoy herself. Listen, you are the mayor of a very large metropolitan city. You don't have time to really be enjoying or kicking your feet up. Every day of every hour of every minute of every second, you, the mayor of Chicago, are required to be the keen-eyed eagle on the wall to make sure that the city's still running effectively. And I get it that mayors have to be delegates and represent the city overseas, but Lightfoot is right now in no position to do so. With the aftermath of the pandemic, this economic recession, dare I say it, depression that we are falling headfirst into, Lightfoot is choosing, again, dereliction of duty, not really helping out her people, and again, proving out to be the fraud that she truly is. Yeah, unless I'm missing something.
No.
I'm starting to see a pattern with Lightfoot, and I think it has to be that she was woefully unprepared for being mayor, and that she only has a few tools in her available toolbox for solving problems, and one of them I see is find ways to raise money for the city so that she can deal with all the problems people keep complaining about.
Well,
And
Ed,
I'm not saying that as an excuse. I'm just trying to wrap my head around, why does she do stuff like this when the optics are so bad?
She's not looking to raise money to help solve the problems, Ed. She's looking to find money to satisfy the financial sector in the city who will donate to her reelection campaign.
Well,
None of this money is going to be going into helping people in the city. And I'm not against business development. Right. I'm not against business development, but when we know where all the business development funds go, it's all the cronyism that's related to those that are going to benefit from the business she brings here, not putting it back into the city, not adding to the TIF funds or opening those TIF funds up to help invest in the communities, or blue in the face here, mental health clinics, youth centers, everything else that we're screaming about from the rooftops. That's what her priority is. Now, in a related story, I actually found this right before. Oh, I seem to have lost you guys. Hello? You there?
No, we're here.
We're still here.
My screen just went black. Okay, here we go. Sorry, guys.
Gremlins.
My screen went black on this end. I got to reshare the screen. I think Oreo got a little bit too close to the keyboard here. So, all right. So, on this note, as we're talking about these crime stats, we all remember what happened July 4th, the tragedy there, how everybody's reeling from it. And suddenly everybody's eyes are more open to the epidemic of gun violence. This came from Block Club Chicago, and I think they make a very good point as we're talking about Lightfoot balancing the priorities of bringing in more business for the fintech sector or dealing with the rampant gun violence epidemic in Chicago. This comes to us from Mac Liederman, Mina Bloom, Noah Asamoah, Lean Yassin, and Caleb Padar and Colin Boyle. As support floods in the Highland Park, Chicagoans facing daily violence wonder, what about us? The July 4th mass shooting in Highland Park shocked the country. In Chicago, there can be multiple mass shootings in 1 month. The trauma is real everywhere. All that is left are tire marks at the scene of a drive-by shooting in Brighton Park on Chicago's South Side. 3 miles south, one candle for an unknown victim has been melted into the pavement. In Englewood, kids walked past a memorial for a man gunned down by a playground. The 4th of July holiday weekend saw 60 people shot and 8 killed in Chicago. In nearby suburban Highland Park, a mass shooting at a 4th of July parade left 7 dead and 46 people shot or injured escaping the violence. Condolences, memorials, and millions of dollars in donations flooded in. Mayor Lori Lightfoot and Governor J.B. Pritzker released their statements of condolences, as they always do, just more platitudes. National news cameras filled the streets with 24/7 coverage. Now, this is mostly focused on Highland Park. Do you see where I'm going here? Vice President Kamala Harris visited, and mental health services were announced for those impacted by gun violence, but only in suburban Highland Park. And I'm not saying it shouldn't be focused on suburban Highland Park, but it should be focused everywhere.
Yeah,
affluence and the status of that community is what's got attention on it. It can't happen here. It did. They get the support. Meanwhile, Chicagoans on all sides of the city are abandoned by our leadership, while Lori Lightfoot is over in Europe on her European vacation for the financial sector development and stimulus to bring into the city. That will only benefit those who are doing business with her or who are in the upper echelon of finance and tech here in Chicago. Ed, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
It's okay. It shines a light on all the things that Chicago doesn't have for support, and then on top of that, like I said earlier, it was super bad optics for her to go off to Europe when she doesn't have her own house in order.
Thank you. What a perfect way to put it.
And what are you gonna do? I don't know what we do here, other than all the things that she says she wants to do, that things that she says she has plans for. How about enacting them? Put some money into them. Let these people get the mental health facilities. Let these people get the social services and the safety nets and all the other stuff that they need in order to turn the neighborhoods and the cities around, so that you don't have people so desperate or stupid to run around shooting each other with guns.
Ilhanor brings up a very good point, but it means organizing, and it means, forgive me for saying so, getting people off their asses. And there are a lot that do. Sadly, not enough. The only way this is going to change is if hundreds of millions of people fill the streets, as we often see in Europe. Billionaires control everything. We need to take to the streets.
Yep. And Lightfoot, don't worry about it. Hey, listen, Lightfoot has to enjoy her time off, though. That's the thing, guys. We have to remember that. She's doing a lot of hard work doing nothing.
Yeah, she is. I was looking for a quick drop in, but I wasn't fast enough. But that's all right. This is why we're hopefully when we get a producing intern, they can be quicker on the dashboard than I can. But yeah, as Ilhanor also said, Lightfoot, like cinema, doesn't give a crap. They know it's just going to get worse. They're looking out for themselves. Now, the article from Block Club Chicago goes on to share violence interrupters, shooting victims, and loved ones of those who didn't survive the weekend in Chicago said they're troubled by the tragedy in Highland Park, but they wonder why help came in abundance only for an affluent, largely white suburb and not Chicago's south and west sides, where predominantly Black and Latino neighborhoods have been rocked by violence for generations. Well, I think that they've kind of answered their own question right there in that statement. There's no governor speaking, no senator speaking, or another en route to Chicago, said Arthur Reed, executive director of the Second Chance Initiative, a violence intervention program on the South Side. Every incident deserves this type of response. I wish that response was echoed in parts of the city because the trauma is real everywhere. Regardless of race and class, the issue affects all of us. There have been 1,525 people shot in Chicago this year as of July 1st, according to police data. That's down from 1,860 victims during the same time last year, but still up from before the pandemic when violence surged. There were 1,172 shooting victims by July 1st of 2019. Murders haven't dropped to pre-pandemic levels, though the numbers have improved from the pandemic's high. 310 people have been killed in Chicago so far this year, compared to 344 people in 2021 and 247 in 2019, according to police data. My head gets dizzy repeating these stats. As I'm reading these stats, though, I'm really honestly wondering how much of coming out of the pandemic has to do with the rise in violence, given the fact so many people have lost their jobs. The economy has just completely tanked, which affects jobs, which affects people's money, savings, ability to feed themselves and take care of themselves and their families. The fact that a lot of the COVID aid didn't go where it was supposed to go. We have a lottery system here in Chicago for that, extra $500 a month to go to specific families based on what do they call it, Ed?
Means testing.
Means testing. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah, means testing. In Chicago, shootings and violence can feel anonymous and routine, said Terrence Henderson, a community outreach leader in Roseland. My general reaction to any violence is, wow, it gets you thinking about where the world is now, Henderson said. Working in a community where it happens a lot, we need people to have the same wow factor here. Regardless of race and class, this issue affects all of us. The violence in Chicago remains a heavy burden for victims and their families, neighbors, and outreach workers. On Tuesday, Meme Haynes carried items belonging to her brother, Dwayne Peterson, who was killed in a shooting July 3rd in West Humboldt Park. He was a sweetheart who was slain on his 38th birthday, she said. Nearby, neighborhood kids rode bikes and played on the sidewalk where Peterson had been killed. Jennifer Medrano, 24, was in Chinatown on July 1st when someone shot and killed her. She was an innocent bystander, Police Commander Don Jerome said. A daytime shooting July 2nd in South Shore left a 26-year-old man dead as he rode his bike near a bus stop. A woman who works on the block was there when it happened. A bullet tore through the store's windows and shattered a glass display, cutting her knees. Another bullet went into the wall just a foot from where she was standing, she said. It was the second shooting on the block recently, she said. There were kids outside watching as a life was taken. The violence is also hurting the small, Black-owned family businesses, she said. A few days before, on June 30th, Norvell Meadows, 19, an all-city basketball player, was shot and killed. And I only continue to read these not because I want to revel in the violence, but these are the names of the victims, the innocent victims whose families have now lost them while Lori is courting business for the fintech sector here in Chicago.
Oh, and the other thing I wanted to add, Jerry, was that this isn't exclusive to Lightfoot either. Rahm Emanuel and the
Richie.
Dailies,
Yep.
they all did this.
I know.
This is the standard operating procedure for the Blue Machine and the mayor of Chicago for decades. This is just a continuation, and where she said she was going to be different during her election campaign, she wasn't. She isn't.
Arturo shares, I have a solution to all the violence in Chicago. Just never go out ever again. By the way, Art, I want to thank you again for joining me as a co-host while Kit was on vacation at Hardlands Meeting. We had a really good time.
Fantastic job.
That day. And Art, you're always welcome to come back to the show here and comment and join us as we go over these stories, along with Ilhan. Or I have to have, maybe I should do a special show with our live chat host, our live chat viewers, do a special co-host show with them.
You know what?
Yeah.
That sounds like a good idea, actually.
Yeah.
Let's. I would actually like to run that by you, because you know what, that would actually be pretty good for the show and interaction with the audience. So let's talk about that after the show, Jerry.
I'm full of good
Number 5, the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
I'm just kidding.
And I'll send you the bill. All right, so back to the article. Again, just I want to name the names. Norvell Meadows, 19, an all-city basketball player, was shot and killed outside his grandmother's home in Austin on the west side. His mother, Octavius Morris, said she long dreaded the possibility of burying her son. If you live where I live, it's kids being shot every day. It's senseless death all the time, Morris said. This country makes it too easy for children to get these guns. After the 4th of July holiday weekend was over in Chicago, the killing continued. Randy Binion Morris lost her son Bobby Jones Jr., 28, when he was fatally shot outside a bar in Wicker Park Thursday. Jones leaves behind a 1-year-old daughter, Isaiah. I have to come to the realization that this is the life we live. You go out, you try to have a good time, and you know things happen. You got to realize it could happen to anyone, Binion Morris said. It could happen at a parade, or in front of a bar, or a park, or while you're at work or riding your bike. Binion Morris used to wonder how mothers felt when they lost a son to gun violence. Now I can tell you how I feel, and I wouldn't want anybody to sit in that chair. To me, he was everything. That was my son, my firstborn, she said. This is an issue our communities have been dealing with for so long. The city has invested millions in violence prevention groups in recent years, and Lightfoot recently announced the city will give an additional $3.1 million to 12 nonprofits for mental health services. Wait, look at how much money was she? I want to go back to how much money all of those fintech companies were making. Oh shit, I've got that story closed. Ed, while I read this, can you bring up the link on your end just to get to the numbers of?
Yeah, as soon as I reopen my tab here.
That's cool. Let me. I mean, we won't open your tab on your, but just you can share those numbers of how much all those fintech companies made and what's going towards the nonprofits for mental health services. 3.1 million to 12 only 12 nonprofits for mental health services. The state has poured funding into community-driven anti-violence strategies, including $50 million under Pritzker's administration this year. All right, I'm going to give Governor Pritzker props for that at least, but that's far more than the 3.1 million for mental health clinics coming from our city. Street outreach programs focus on preventing violence by connecting workers with real-life experience to people most likely to commit or be at risk for violence. Henderson said he's noticed the greater investment in street outreach work, which he's done for 12 years. The programs in Chicago have been effective in setting people on better paths, helping them advance their education, find jobs, and seek help for the trauma of growing up around violence, Henderson said. Now, on a related note, the Tuesday episode of Chicago Corner for CAN TV, which will broadcast in a few weeks, was with the Defy organization. Mm-hmm. What they specialize in is finding work and helping nonviolent criminal offenders who are getting out of prison start their own businesses and assimilate back into society, find work, find jobs so that recidivism goes down and that they're actually, making the better choice with an opportunity that they have that they didn't have before they made a bad choice putting them in prison. So I think that what these programs that Henderson mentioned regarding greater investment in street outreach work and setting people on better paths is a big part of that preventative solution. The city's also set up a community safety coordination center, an agency to coordinate violence prevention efforts between city agencies and neighborhood groups. Tamara Mahal, chief coordination officer for the center, said that they are training 500 community workers in trauma intervention and connecting people to mental health services as a way to prevent and respond to violence. Ed, go ahead with those numbers.
Okay, all right. So at the beginning of this article is $3.1 million to 12 nonprofits for mental health services.
Yeah, remember a lot of those were closed too. They need to reopen new ones or open new ones.
Okay, and it said that 16 Chicago-based financial tech companies raised $479 million in venture capital, and 10 local financial tech companies raised $53 million in seed funding.
Do we see the problem, everybody?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
We all know what the real problem is, and when
priorities
we look at the politicians. What are their priorities? It's making the downtown area look nice, gentrifying the south and west side, turning a blind eye to corruption, and letting communities fall apart because the city is severely hyper-segregated. And we're not even using the TIF funds. It's a perfect time to bring up this book. I just want to share it with our people. Here, just, making mandatory reading, but Chicago's not broke.
Yep. We've mentioned it before.
Chicago's not broke. We have the resources to help out our communities. We have the resources to actually make sure that we can stop the crime and the violence. We have the power. We just lack the leaders in office who have the heart and compassion to do the right thing.
We don't have leaders, Kit. We have administrators, and they're only administrating as Art shares in his comment. I'll bring up again, to be fair, a mayor can't stop working for Chicago, but it's clear she's only working for the rich of Chicago. It's their priorities. Their priorities are not on leadership. Their priorities are on serving their donors and those that will help them get reelected. Let me kind of bring this article to a close because they touch upon exactly what you just mentioned here also, Kit and Ed. The efforts are just scratching the surface. Generational trauma, neighborhood disinvestment, and easy access to weapons nationwide continue to fuel Chicago's gun violence, Mahal said. We have a lot of deep-rooted causes that we can address, Mahal said. What happens every day in Chicago is we have a tremendous amount of guns and a tremendous amount of authority for people to come get them. Lightfoot has suggested more novel and often controversial measures for preventing violence, like suing gang members and moving the city curfew for youth from 11 to 10 p.m. Can we all give a big stroke job to that? And officials, thank you. And officials, including Lightfoot and Pritzker, have repeatedly called for tough gun laws and for federal help with cracking down on gun crime in the city. Now, let's look at the tough gun laws, the red flag laws, right, that the Illinois State Police ignored with the Highland Park shooter, despite the fact he had 2 previous incidents that the Highland Park police reported to the Illinois State Police. One, he was suicidal. The second, that he threatened his family. They came and took his knives. And then there were, I think, a total of 9 incidents reported at that family. And the Illinois State Police, no, it's fine. Go ahead. His dad sponsored his Ford car. That's fine. Give it to him. So we have the gun laws in place. That's the point I'm making. Tough gun laws. That is a tough gun law. Look at a person's background, look at the red flags, and don't give them a FOID card, at least for legal gun. And we're talking about legal weapons there, not to mention all the illegal ones, to which I always scream, guys, what's my hashtag? Regulate ammunition.
Mm-hmm.
Regulate ammunition. Buy as many guns as you want, assholes. Get access to as many guns as you want, but if you can't get the ammunition, that'll keep people safe. And I do think, honestly, people think that's a silly pivot. I don't think it is at all. If our representatives or those that are leaders aren't willing to really take on the gun lobby, Second Amendment does not afford you the right to ammunition nor gunpowder. For those people on the Hardlands media show who were mocking me in the chats and saying, well, people can get gunpowder, they can make their ammunition in their basements. Great. So let's regulate the gunpowder too, so it's not as easy. Okay? Problem solved. Well, maybe. The majority of crime guns taken in by Chicago police come from other states where laws are more lenient, according to a 2017 city study. But after the Highland Park massacre, many politicians have focused their calls on banning high-powered rifles like that used by the gunman, while much of the violence in Chicago is perpetuated by people using handguns. Even then, calls for gun control have repeatedly failed after high-profile acts of violence, which, you know what, that does kind of like contradict my argument that I've made, that I don't have a problem with handguns and rifles for home security or hunting, so long as you go through the background checks and so long as you're licensed and you're trained. But hey, the article kind of proves me wrong with even that compromise. Even then, calls for gun control have repeatedly failed because of gun violence perpetrated by people using handguns in the streets, not the semi-automatic weapons like this idiot in Highland Park. Henderson said missing from the conversation about banning assault weapons is the proliferation of switches on handguns, which can rapid-fire rounds of ammo with limited precision, leaving innocent bystanders in harm's way. Mass shootings can happen in Chicago at any time because of this type of weaponry, but the switches, Henderson said. We need to shed light on what's happening here and ban these switches. Lastly, and I'll close out this article. I mean, there's a lot more here, but I think that this last paragraph, another issue anti-violence experts said many Chicagoans are somewhat numb to the horrors of the violence because of its frequency. The Highland Park shooting was the first shooting there in decades. In Chicago, there can be multiple mass shootings just in the same month. In May, there were 2 in the same day. During another mass shooting in May, Chicagoans simply stepped over and threw the victim's blood on the sidewalk. The reality of violence in Chicago is that there's desensitization, Mahal said, because this is an issue our communities have been dealing with for so long. Cannot disagree with that. So, all right, before we move on to our next story, any thoughts, guys? Last thoughts on that particular story?
Edward, you can go.
I don't know what else to add. We can go around and around on what laws are in place and what laws that the neighboring states don't have that kind of make some of our laws, moot or ineffective. And then you'll have other people in other states saying, well, Illinois is doing all this stuff and it doesn't work, so why should we do it in our state? And I'm like, well, if you have like a nationwide restriction on certain types of like assault weapons, for example, that affects the entire nation. It doesn't affect just one state. So you don't have people traveling from state to state, basically circumventing the regulation. Regardless of where you stand on what you feel you have a right to own based on the Constitution or the First Amendment. But you can't be critical of Illinois' restrictions and attempts to reduce gun violence by saying that the stuff that you have in place isn't working when you don't have it in your state, and especially if you're a neighboring state. So it's a difficult thing to tackle. Not everybody has the same opinion on what you have the right to do as far as firearms are concerned. Not everybody has the same opinion on whether anyone should have firearms. But I would say, if we're going to limit firearms for citizens, we probably should consider limiting firearms for law enforcement too. That's my hot take for tonight.
Well, and that will actually be related to the story we do after our Matt Asphalt story regarding some comments Willie Wilson has made. But I want to transition here into kind of a different topic of news as far as it goes to environmental activism. I know that this topic is very near and dear to Kit's heart also, given all the work that he and Daniel did exploring this crisis in our South and West Side neighborhoods with environmental pollution and what can clearly be called environmental racism. And this is Kit's, as he likes to describe them, his old enemies at Matt Asphalt.
Yeah, so
your nemesis at Matt Asphalt.
Oh, God, man, and talk about a bunch of douchebags too.
Jagoffs.
Yeah. All right. So look, let's talk about these jagoffs at Matt Asphalt plant. So just so that everyone has a fresh reminder of who they are. In 2018, the Matt Asphalt plant was built near McKinley Park. McKinley Park is a 60, 70 plus acre Greenland space on the south side of Chicago. It's a historic park. It's surrounded by a lot of homes and condos. There are 2 schools, a community center, an open pool. And the Matt Asphalt plant was built there, known from the state of Illinois, city of Chicago, or Cook County, informed the residents that this asphalt plant was being built in their community. It is operating without a permit. Now, the thing is, what I find interesting is that both Mayor Lightfoot and Governor J.B. Pritzker both ran on their campaigns in 2018 and Lightfoot respectively in 2019 for having a strong EPA, believing in this. Mind you, we're still in the presence of the Trump administration. And Governor J.B. Pritzker actually did a photograph at the community garden at McKinley Park before the Matt Asphalt plant was built. Now, Lightfoot, she has also been calling for a strong EPA. However, the alderman of the 12th Ward also has close ties with the Matt Asphalt plant, and Alderman Cardenas is also the head of Chicago's Environmental Protection Agency under Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Now, here's the dangerous thing about asphalt plants. They release out particulate matter. Particulate matter impacts the heart, lungs, and brain. It severely impacts senior citizens and young children. So there are 2 schools there, and those children are exposed to the asphalt plant, plus the countless toxins and back and forth truck traffic of the heavy trucks that are going into the Matt Asphalt plant area. I'm proud to say that the asphalt plant did lose a $500 million contract by the city of Chicago. I think we all kind of saw that, and that was a big victory. I think that's well-deserved because as far as I'm concerned, the asphalt plant should be removed. This community, again, was not informed of its construction. And I have a whole bunch of show notes and articles that shows how long we've been covering this. We do reach out. We do want to speak to a representative from the Neighbors for Environmental Justice about this entire story, because the recent update is probably the most frightening and most diabolical thing I've seen from the Matt Asphalt plant.
Well, we did reach out to try and get a member up, and they're from the Twitter group Neighborhoods for Environmental Justice Chicago. Unfortunately, we weren't able to connect with them before the show. But what blows me away, Kit, before you go on, is the fact that they built this plant without those permits, expecting they were going to get them, until thankfully these environmental justice groups exposed what they were doing and exposed all of the pollution and all of the contaminants that are going into the air that would go into the air and cause all kinds of medical problems for these people. Now that they didn't get their permit, they're pissed off.
They didn't get their contract either.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I don't mean to cut you off here, but
no, go ahead.
What I find interesting is that, again, no one was informed of its construction in the first place. So you can understand why all the people living near McKinley Park are upset, especially the parents of the children that are by the 2 schools, by the Matt Asphalt plant.
Doesn't belong in a residential community at all. None of these types of industries belong near residential communities. I mean, we've got a long history in this country of seeing factories next to waterways, and they just throw all their shit in the waterways and cause cancer for people in the surrounding residential community because you don't have the safeguards in place that the EPA enforces, or they might not know how bad the situation is, although they should. So the fact that these assholes decide to and let's also remember they were in Lincoln Park. Were they in Lincoln Park, or was that the?
Actually, no. One of the owners in Lincoln Park. Hold on, I'll bring up that story. But
it's another story. They didn't want a polluting company in Lincoln Park, so they moved them to the southwest side. General Iron. That was it. It was a scrapyard. Yeah, because people on the north side know that kind of shit's going to contaminate their residential communities. So naturally, just move it to a residential community in the southwest side, because the brown and people of color don't matter to those making those.
Hinky. What does that mean, Vince? Hinky.
Oh, strange.
Weird. Why don't you say strange or weird? Or hinky, that has no meaning.
We say hinky.
I don't want you guys using words around me that got no meaning.
Thanks, Ed.
I also want to add out too that people have been rightfully calling out the Illinois EPA about the stench, and it smells. It is gross and disgusting. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen also the numerous movements by the activists setting up protests and calling it out and holding town halls. The Matt Asphalt plant is again a hindrance. So, Jerry, I think it's only fair that we share to people this deplorable update of what the Matt Asphalt plant is doing. With
they attempted. This is how diabolical. This is how diabolical these fuckers are. All right, so this came from Twitter. The Neighbors for Environmental Justice Chicago shared emails obtained by Neighbors for Environmental Justice show neighborhood blog McKinley Park News, which is sponsored by Matt Asphalt, asked the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency for the home address of everyone who reported the facility for air pollution. It almost sounds like Matt Asphalt wants to cancel residents in the community by finding out who they are. Why would Matt Yep, Jake and Elwood. Why would Matt Asphalt need the names and home addresses of all the people that complained and reported them for air pollution? Why? What? It's over with. Why would you want that information? Now, to be clear, Neighborhood for Environmental Justice also reports the EPA declined. Bring that up here. Providing only redacted data and a ranking of repeat reporters. We analyzed the provided data and also mapped 311 complaints in this post. More on that in a minute. First, we want to highlight the unethical nature of their request and the deceptive way they went about it. Initially, McKinley Park News said that they wanted the addresses to understand who was facing the greatest environmental burden from air pollution. Here's what that email says. Dear Ms. Pratt, I hope you're well. I'm a correspondent with McKinley Park News. Remember, McKinley Park News that is distributed within McKinley Park is sponsored by Matt Asphalt. Is there any kind of, what's the word?
Conflict of interest?
Conflict of interest. Thank you. That's why I got Ed here to fill in my brain fries. Yeah, any conflict of interest with that? I hope you're well. I'm a correspondent with McKinley Park News, a local news publication in the locality of McKinley Park in Chicago. Notice they don't mention that they're sponsored by Matt Asphalt. They're a news gathering organization. Do you see the deception here? I would like to file a request for review with your department to access addresses in a data set I had requested from the IEPA. The IEPA has redacted that information. So IEPA redacted it, so the McKinley Park News is now going to Ms. Pratt to get the information that the Illinois EPA said, no, we're not giving you that. The data set I had requested from the IEPA was a list of complaints filed against Matt Asphalt, a local asphalt plant in Chicago. I'm writing a story on complaints against the plant, and I need to understand which localities are facing the biggest burden of environmental pollution because of the asphalt plant. For this, I need access to the addresses in the data sets.
Uh-huh.
You think? All right. So, moving on. Oh, I pulled up the wrong email. Sorry, guys. Hang on.
Oh, there's way too many options in these videos, Jerry.
Aren't there? So, but after the IEPA declined, they were more direct, asking if they could provide a list of addresses for the publicly identified leaders of a local advocacy group to see if any frequent reporting locations were from Neighborhoods for Environmental Justice. The IEPA again declined. Thank you for this helpful information, says Ankita Mukhopadhyay to Anwar Johnson. Thank you for this helpful information. However, it still does not help us conclusively determine whether complaint records are tied to broad community concern or specific targeted advocacy from within an organized group. The McKinley Park News is worried about identifying if this is advocacy from, and shouldn't the McKinley Park News actually be supporting the fact that this is targeted advocacy to protect residents in that community?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, you know, because look, you can't give away that kind of information because the thing is that people can be doxxed.
Yep, that's what it's called.
And not to mention, look, we live in Chicago. Okay, those addresses somehow get in the hands of the wrong people, and then something happens to silence all those who've been critical of the Matt Asphalt plant.
Somebody comes by and knocks on your door and says, hey, we hear you're making complaints here. You keep making the complaints, you're going to have other things to complain about. All right, so the email...
Such a crock of shit.
Yes, it is, Al. It indeed is a crock of shit. Indeed, based on what you provided, the high concentration of complaints from the top addresses seem to point toward the latter. Perhaps we can provide you with a list of addresses of the publicly identified leaders of a neighborhood advocacy group. Then you could tell us whether these addresses fall within the top reporting locations. How much more stupidly transparent can you be in signaling You want to confirm who your advocacy enemies are to potentially do something to prevent them from advocating anymore.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the thing is what I find interesting is, and again, I have a show notes of all of our coverage of the Mad Asphalt plant. You know, 2 of them are also audio only, but you know, when the town hall was happening, Mad Asphalt plant showed up there at the town hall trying to be all friendly, but everyone could see through their BS and lies. Look, I'm willing to bet if I talk to the owners of the Mad Asphalt plant or anyone else working, how would you feel if somebody put an asphalt plant or some industrial facility in your neighborhood or near a school where your kids went to or a public park? I'm pretty sure you wouldn't like it.
I have a great suggestion for any advocacy groups that they might want to do inconspicuously or anonymously. Just get a big fertilizer truck to dump cow shit on the lawns of the Mad Asphalt business owners and see how they like that. I mean, that's not even.
Yes!
It's certainly not as toxic as what they're releasing to the community, but it certainly would send a signal. So, Neighborhoods for Environmental Justice say, again, McKinley Chicago asked ILEPA for the addresses of anyone who complained about their sponsor, Mad Asphalt, claiming it was to understand environmental burden when, in fact, they sought to discredit those complaints. This is not ethical journalism. This is sponsored content. Now, this is not the first time McKinley Park News has targeted Neighborhood for Environmental Justice in support of Michael Tadin. In 2020, Justin Kerr, publisher, editor, writer, and solopreneur, demanded $2,400 and threatened us, Neighborhoods for Environmental Justice, with a lawsuit alleging copyright infringement over the use of Michael Tadin's head in this particular.
Solopreneur, that's not a word.
No, it's not. So they put this out, and he decided to try to sue them for copyright infringement. It was a frankly silly threat. You can read about it here in the Twitter thread. That's not how copyright works.
No, it's not how it works at all. You'd think a journalist would know that.
Right?
Yeah, you'd think an algorithm would know that too.
Right.
Oh, wait, we're talking about something else.
Between poorly understanding copyright and unethically seeking personal data, Medill School should be embarrassed. Mr. Karen, Ms. Mukhopadhyay are alumni. But back to air pollution. The emails are, I'm going to leave this up while I read the rest of the story. But back to air pollution. The emails are from March and April, so you may wonder why they did not publish a story with the data they received, the redacted data. Maybe it's because the data did not support the story that they wanted to tell. The data shows that Mad Asphalt has been reported for air pollution 367 times since opening, from somewhere between 65 and 126 separate locations.
367 times? Is that all?
The location that filed the most complaints reported them about once every week and a half. But why limit ourselves to the IEPA? Neighborhoods for Environmental Justice collects and publishes air pollution service request data from the city's 311 system. In McKinley Park, air pollution complaints are widespread but visibly clustered closest to, where do you think? Mad Asphalt.
That's where it's at.
In 2021, Mad Asphalt had the most air pollution complaints of any address in the city. Michael Tadin, whatever this fuck's name is, likes to claim people report them when they aren't operating, but 311 complaints correlate closely to their operating hours, peaking early in the morning, as that chart shows. This is what happens to the air quality when they start up in the morning. We got video. And I will go full screen on this and hope that it doesn't slam our signal here. How about that?
Ugh, gross. Absolutely gross.
Disgusting. So to recap, McKinley Park News made an unethical request, which was denied, and the data they obtained confirms that complaints are coming from people all over McKinley Park, not a handful of organizers unfairly targeting a persecuted industrial facility. Lastly, these numbers understate the severity of the problem. Get out of this YouTube video. Sorry, I got to lean over and look at my other screen here that I've got up next to me. All right, so here's the last graphic that relates to the final nail in the story. 311 and IEPA have English-only complaint forms, while air pollution is disproportionately concentrated in non-English speaking communities. That's environmental racism in action. We at Neighborhoods for Environmental Justice trust our noses and our neighbors. We believe the hundreds of documented complaints from schools and residents are exactly what they appear to be. Evidence that allowing Matt to cook hot mixed asphalt next to schools, homes, and a park is unacceptable. If you would like to report air pollution to the city or state, you can use the links at smellsbad.today.
Please help. Look, Neighbors for Environmental Justice put out this Twitter thread, and I encourage everyone that's watching this show right now, please follow them on Twitter, share this post. What is happening here is completely unethical. A newspaper that is sponsored by the Mad Asphalt plant, has someone from their organization asking for the Illinois EPA for the addresses of the people calling in complaints and then calling in for the leaders' names.
It's to intimidate.
Right.
It's an intimidation campaign is what it's going to turn into.
It's criminal.
Yeah.
Governor J.B. Pritzker, where are you at? Mayor Lori Lightfoot, where are you at?
You know what, kid? I'll subclip this story, and perhaps we can put it on our Chicago Corner Twitter and tag Governor Pritzker.
Yeah, Governor Pritzker and the Illinois EPA. Let them know what's going on.
I would be shocked if they don't already know about this. I would imagine that the Neighbors for Environmental Justice have already passed this along to them. But maybe if enough of our viewers also tweet it, make it a little bit more viral, who knows? Maybe it could make more of a difference. You would hope. That's the community action and activism we all want to aspire to.
I agree.
All right, guys. Let me pull up our next story here.
Apologies, I have to head out for one quick second. I'll be right back.
Go right ahead, my friend. Take Kit down for a moment. All right, Ed, stand by with me. So let's get to our old friend, Dr. Willie Wilson. All right, I got to bring up the link here and make sure the Sun Times doesn't block it.
You want me to pull it up? Or you got it?
No, I got it. I don't have all the screens up at once so that I don't get slammed.
Yes.
So I'm just like copying and pasting over. But I do also want to share this. I came across this this billboard on my way home the other day. Let me bring it up. With God help and wisdom, we'll get hers together. Nope. I don't want to hear about God's help when it comes to running a city or a state or a country. He's pandering. I mean, I know he's a man of faith, and I'm not. Okay, so I always have to like parse this. I do not want to disrespect people of faith. I've stated a couple times, I'm agnostic for my own reasons. It doesn't mean I don't believe that there's something. I just don't think we can understand what it is. But when our elected representatives pander by bringing religion and faith and spirituality into that's why you should vote for them, that's kind of where I'm like, nah. I've admired some of what Willie Wilson's done in the past, although he's clearly bribing people for votes with his free gas campaigns and other initiatives, charitable initiatives. But then when it goes to this, it's just like, no, you've lost me. And these billboards are up all over the city now. So anyway, that's just my own like personal little comment on that.
And if the billboards weren't bad enough, just wait till we start talking about this story.
Yes. So I kind of want to wait. Well, I think Kit can probably hear on his end when he's ready to come back. He can join us as we comment on the article. So I'm just going to go to the Sun-Times article, which was on top of the billboards that kind of put me off, just added an extra little nail in the coffin of my support for Dr. Wilson, despite the charitable stuff he's doing. Because this relates directly to stories we're talking about all the time and how CPD escalates situations instead of follow some kind of standard of accountability, specifically with foot chases against unarmed offenders where the police officers' lives are really not in danger. But, they chase and they shoot them in the back because they can. Mayoral challenger Willie Wilson takes aim at violent crime. We will take the handcuffs off the police, and we will put the handcuffs on the people who are victimizing residents. Okay.
It's
Yeah, I
lip
kind of agree with
service
that,
to his campaign.
that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
If police officers continue to be like they are right now, I'm going to move out of Chicago myself, he says.
All right. Well, if he's that wishy-washy about even living here, why is he still running? That you should just take your name out of the running then.
Good point. Millionaire businessman Willie Wilson vowed Wednesday to take the handcuffs off Chicago police officers by eliminating policies that sharply restrict their ability to chase violent offenders, either with police vehicles or on foot. Okay,
so now
who's going to define who's the violent offender that you're going to chase after them, shoot at them, or decide to get engaged in a high-speed chase where you could kill innocent people that you're mowing down while you're chasing the person who's getting away in a car, who I don't think is able to stick his head out the window and shoot while you're chasing him in the police car.
Jerry, we just got to a point where they started to revise when and where and how they do foot chases, and Willie wants to just throw that out the window.
Yep, that's what he wants to do. I'm sure this is pandering to the Fraternal Order of Police as well.
Yeah.
Again, Willie Wilson's trying to hedge his bets. This is a guy who likes to buy his way out of situations. Very Byzantium of him, because, let's face it, he wants to buy people gas, food, and also get the love of the police. He wants to have all the money and the power of the city watch on his side, which I have to say, on the one hand, is a smart political move, because right now people are desperate for a full tank of gas as well as a few other benefits. And then having the police on his side, well, let's face it, Lightfoot hasn't earned herself a lot of favors. She's made political enemies out of everyone, including Willie Wilson, who helped her win the South Side of Chicago. This is a fact, and it cannot be debated.
Yeah, let me continue with the article. You're right. He says our police officers are handcuffed by the administration. We will take the handcuffs off the police, and we will put the handcuffs on the people who are victimizing law-abiding citizens, Wilson said. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. But the nature of the training and deciding to just shoot at anybody you're chasing after, that the police will claim are violent when they may not be, because we know the police, are a little bit iffy with whether or not they're, actually telling the facts or not. If police officers continue to be like they are right now, I'm going to move out of Chicago myself. They have to be free to do their jobs and protect us all. We've put too many restrictions on our police officers, and the people who commit these crimes got us all scared. We have to take some of these restrictions off. One step forward, two steps back. In a speech at a fundraiser for his campaign held in a River North banquet hall filled with supporters. How many people from the South and West Side communities do you think were in that banquet hall, guys? Enjoying, feasting off of the good food and drink and hobnobbing and elbowing with all of the decision makers who, want their businesses protected by the police department while violating people's civil rights. And we've put too many restrictions on our police officers, and the people who commit these crimes got us all scared. We have to take some of these restrictions off. All right, so he's at the River North banquet hall filled with supporters. I actually tripped myself up, Ed. Let me finish this paragraph. Wilson outlined a laundry list of costly proposals aimed at confronting the one problem, violent crime, that public opinion polls show is foremost on the minds of Chicago residents, employees, and visitors. It is. Arguing it makes no sense to have 50 alderpersons and one top cop, Wilson reiterated the promise he made during his 2019 mayoral campaign, hiring 4 police superintendents, with all of them reporting directly to the mayor. He vowed to reestablish the CTA's in-house police unit, rehire retired cops to bolster foot patrols, put 3 or 4 officers in each squad car. How about putting a social worker in the squad cars too, Willie? Or an observer? Or, as Roger Meadows said on the Hardlands Media Show, Kit, hey, Willie, how about we start streaming police cams to a public server? If you want to allow them to start foot chasing people, or pull up those restrictions, great. Here's the trade-off. Let's start streaming all the body cams to a public server, so we can see if we can corroborate if those were actually violent threats or not, and see how long that lasts, as far as the police claiming, oh, yeah, it was a violent offender when it wasn't, and they're just chasing people down and shooting them.
Well, it's, look, you want to be a public servant, you should be able to be monitored by the public. In And you should not have a problem with that if you're in law enforcement. If you have a problem with the public seeing the actions you take as a law enforcement officer, then maybe you shouldn't be a law enforcement officer.
Yeah, I know that the Streets and Sand has a lot of openings that they need to fill.
And so, and again, Willie says we have to take some of these restrictions off. Aside from the foot chase thing, which I think is ridiculous, what other things are they being restricted in doing? Are they not allowed to abuse their authority as much as they were before? Is that the problem? Give us a list, Willie. What else are they complaining that they're not allowed to do to or for the citizens?
Ilhan, a rich man buying his way to power. Arturo Medina, is it fair to say that someone with money can't leave politics alone? So the article goes on to continue regarding this River North event. In an apparent attempt to curb the troubling surge in youth violence, Wilson also promised to bolster training programs and impose a new high school graduation requirement at Chicago public schools. I will make it become a law that before you finish high school or any school, you have to know at least one or two trades, Wilson said. I don't think it's a bad idea, but I don't think you can legislate that with a law. You can't force it. I mean, I think it's not a bad idea. I do think that sadly, trade schools and trade training has diminished in a way that could really benefit students that can't afford college. When you go be a plumber or electrician, you'll do pretty well, or a car mechanic.
Yeah,
you can't make a law.
I don't entirely disagree with encouraging students to learn a trade during high school. I think that's a good thing for them to do. But I was an art student. I don't know if I'd consider that a trade, although certain aspects of art might lend to that. I remember metals class one year. We do lost wax casting. We made jewelry. We did all kinds of soldering and stuff with blowtorches, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that could in theory be converted into something that you might consider a trade, or at least the opening part of an apprenticeship somewhere. That's what we really need to do. Yeah. Is we need to revive apprenticeships in all numbers of trades and businesses and lines of employment. We should have businesses hire you and pay you to be an apprentice, pay you a living wage to be an apprentice, to do something that you're interested in being an apprentice for. I don't know why everybody needs to have a job where they're just suffering to pay the bills. There should be lines where people can just, figure out how to do what you want to do and also be something that you might have a knack or skill in. Not to get too far off the topic.
No. It's very related because speaking of trades, my dad is retired now, but he was an industrial designer. He was an inventor. He understands mechanics. He knows how to basically evaluate problems with an automobile, engines, machinery. And as I reflect back now on high school, I wish I'd taken auto shop. Anytime I have an issue with my Jeep, I'll call my dad. Hey, this is what's going on. Any thoughts? And he immediately is able to kind of at least wrap his head around what the problem might be, so I can take it to a mechanic and have it properly assessed and looked at. And 9 times out of 10, it's usually he's on the right track. So. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I guess the issue where he says making it a law, I'm just like, what else are you going to make laws about for high school? Prayer, public prayer again, given the fact that, he's claiming that, with God's help and wisdom. So, but he says in the next paragraph of this article, which I agree with wholeheartedly, and I wish that we had, maybe not under rule of law, but learned in high school. He says, in school, we will make sure that we teach our young men and young ladies about the stock market. We'll make sure that they understand how to deal with international business. $1 in the United States is different than what it is in China. We need to understand that. We need to teach the young people how to deal with and make investments. Abso-fucking-lutely. He's right on that.
Yeah.
That's something that, and why don't they teach that stuff in high school, guys? so that you've got a working class, not an investment class, and you've basically got, a multiple class society with the haves and the have-nots.
We can't be teaching kids that early about things like synthetic shares, Jerry.
Right.
We can't be teaching them about dark pools in high school. We can't have an unruly retail investor class. That's just asking for trouble, right?
And we're seeing what's happening right now with the impotent SEC and the impotent. I won't even say impotent; they're just blatantly corrupt. It's just absolute collusion with the hedge funds. Hester Pierce, Gary Gensler. Did you just see Nancy Pelosi dumped her Visa stock that she and her husband invested in many years ago? And everyone's like, geez, she dumped her Visa. So she knows something.
They always get the information ahead.
Yep.
You would think these politicians, you think someone like Nancy would care, but remember, this is somebody who's been in power for so long. She doesn't even know if she's put on a new pair of Depends or not. So there you go.
Wilson. So all right. So as much as I can't really support Wilson based on these comments about restricting reforms that have been needed, but he does make a couple of other good points that I hope will be adopted by other mayoral candidates. Wilson also promised to make city assistants for Chicagoans who have lost their jobs a permanent part of the city budget. Fair enough. No more pilot programs like the current guaranteed income test, which is giving 5,000 needing families. I made a mistake earlier in the show. I said 500. No more pilot programs like the current guaranteed income test, which is giving 5,000 needy families $500 a month, no strings attached, but just for a year. Public assistance, too, is a way to combat violence, he said. If somebody don't have food at home, what do you think they're going to do? Common sense. I would do the same thing. If I didn't have food at home and nobody's going to give it to me, I would go out and steal food for myself. Being real, said Wilson, who's devoted millions of her personal fortune to recent food and gas giveaways. We have to make sure that we have a safety net, put away X amount of dollars on a line item, that when someone gets poor, or like COVID-19 hits and you lose your job, we must have the money to help bridge the gap until they can get on their feet again. I don't disagree, but why do you want to hold the police less accountable? Because that's at the forefront of what he was pandering to during this luncheon.
Yeah, see, it's Jerry. It's stuff like this where it's like, I like what he's saying here, but then you back up and you're like, and he starts talking about, we got to take the shackles off the police or whatever, whatever phrase. I'm like, okay, I think he's just got a weird perspective on that. I don't think he really sees that part in depth enough, or he's pandering. Can we back up just a minute? To where he said he wanted to have 4 different police superintendents.
Yeah. You want me to reread?
How do you guys feel about that?
I don't know
it's a good idea.
If you divide the city into 4 districts, that those 4 superintendents would that be east side? Would it be like north, south,
east, and west? And if they do that, is that going to cause problems?
Then you've got the whole question. Then you've got the question of too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah,
possibly.
But
maybe if you appointed 4 commissioners for those 4 districts, reporting to the superintendent, who ultimately makes the decision based on what's coming in, and the mayor. Kathy says no band-aids without public input. Yeah.
Yeah, but to have 4 police superintendents, I'm trying to think what that would do to the city. Yeah. Is that going to pit each quadrant against each other for resources? Is that going to make the problem worse, or is it going to help them wrap their heads around the types of support that they need?
Yeah. Now, here's where the Sun-Times injects its editorial commentary, which I don't really like, but because it speaks to we don't have the money when we know we do. If Wilson wins and implements all his crime-fighting ideas, it would cost cash-strapped. And what are all of his crime-fighting ideas? All of those preventative measures to help residents in the community, right? I mean, aside from him wanting to take back...
Did somebody say crime-fighting ideas?
Oh, God.
I'm sorry I had to do it.
All right, so
Rona Destroyer in the studio.
The article goes on to say, if Wilson wins and implements all his crime-fighting ideas, most of which I think are preventative. It would cost cash-strapped Chicago taxpayers tens of millions of dollars at a time when an avalanche of federal stimulus funds is drying up. And why is that?
No, it wouldn't.
Why are those stimulus funds drying up? Who the fuck got them? Who decided to pay down our loans and our debt with banks or shovel 60% of that to the Chicago Police Department right out of the gate 2 years ago? Thank you. Wilson did, Ed, you are right on mark tonight. Thank you. Wilson did not outline how he would pay for all his plans other than to say he, and this is the other thing. It's like, Willie, I like half the time I agree with him, half the time I don't. He's a businessman who knows how to live within his means and knows what to do to make a city do the same. Yeah, but government is not a profit-driven enterprise.
Yeah.
It's not run the same way. It's not for profit where you have to balance a budget in a way to make money. So anytime you've got a businessman who leans on that, I'm like, no, dude, you don't. It's not. I'm sorry, that doesn't cut it. Now he says he promised to deprive the city of tens of millions of dollars by eliminating red light cameras and reducing taxes, fines, and fees that he claims are causing people to either lose their homes, leave the city, or both. Yeah, I agree. Hey, Willie, get rid of those. Tom Tresser has a great idea. 2 cents per transaction, LaSalle Street tax. Implement that, or is that going to piss off all your business buddies at this luncheon that you're attending here, Willie? Look at that crowd. They don't want that. They don't want to pay 2 cents per transaction, which would basically help do all these things. So, when the Sun Times says, he doesn't know how it's going to cost cash-strapped Chicago taxpayers tens of millions, it's all in that room. It's all in that room. 2 cents per transaction tax on LaSalle Street. Anytime they implement a trade, 2 cents. Off of what, $100, $1,000, multi-million-dollar trade, 2 cents per transaction. That's too much. I mean, you have to understand there, millions, thousands, millions of trades a day. But that would knock down our deficit. But these fuckers in that room that he's pandering to don't want that. And that's exactly what Tresser presents in his book, The Kid's Holding Up. So, at one point during question and answer session after speech, a speech interrupted repeatedly by rousing applause, Wilson was asked how he feels about Illinois' concealed carry law. The person who asked the question noted that in Indiana, you don't have to conceal any longer. It is, in fact, illegal to conceal. I do have a concealed carry permit myself. My father told me don't leave home without it, Wilson said to laughter. I do have 3 firearms. There probably needs to be 1 more. However, I do believe in background checks. I do believe in that. You got to buy these cards to conceal and carry in Illinois. I think it's a waste for them to continue to do that. It's a way for them to make money. I have to pay for something every year or every 4 years on a piece of paper when they already knew who I am. Yeah, well, you can afford it though, Willie. So yeah, that's the update on Dr. Willie Wilson. Any other thoughts from you, gentlemen?
Pretty much, it's deplorable what we're seeing here in our city. This mayoral race will determine the future of the city of Chicago. I'm not going to use the phrase, this is the most important election of our lifetime, because we've heard that say so many times. But if you're a Chicagoan and you want to save our city, we need to start looking at leaders at not only at the mayoral race, but also for city council. Chicago is filled with good people, and we need to step up. And even after the election, don't just assume that these politicians are going to do the right thing. We have to be constantly vigilant and make our presence known that we're not going anywhere.
Chicago isn't beyond saving. Give me more time. There are good people here. Yep, we hope. Moving into our next story, we're back to the cops. This is like a really cop-heavy show. I know, gun violence and civil activism and stuff, but it's like it dominates our news cycle all the time. And it affects all this other stuff that we talk about regarding civil justice and preventative solutions and not reactive solutions. So there's actually a video with this too. Ed, do you have it queued up? I'm just worried if I bring it up, maybe it might start to hammer my stream. I mean, I can try to, but...
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, let's play the video, and then we'll go into the article.
A Chicago police officer who struck an 18-year-old woman at the Columbus Statue Post 2 years ago has resigned from the department. Nicholas Jovanovich was facing termination for allegedly using excessive force and lying on a police report. He was accused of knocking a cell phone out of the hands of Miracle Boyd. The phone hit her in the face, knocking out one of her teeth. COPA, the Civilian Office of Police Accountability, concluded in its investigation that he should be fired for violating departmental rules.
You think?
Yeah, so how about that? This is what they always do. It was the story with the Nikita Brown situation over at North Avenue Beach, the woman who was assaulted by the cop on the beach. He resigned. He was under investigation, and then suddenly he decided he was going to take early retirement or whatever the fuck it was. That's what they do. They're able to escape the accountability before they are fired by resigning. And I don't know if that. I mean, I'm assuming that's a tactic to perhaps preserve their pensions. But let's go to Tribe.
Yeah, it's definitely an attempt to protect their pensions. But if they decide, that they're going to press charges, if they decide they're not going to let them have their pensions, I mean.
Well, Tanya Hill at Tribe reports the activist claims he's escaping accountability. Chicago organizer Miracle Boyd speaks out after police who attacked her resigns. It's been nearly 2 years since a Chicago Police Department officer hit Good Kids Mad City youth leader Miracle Boyd during a protest in Grant Park in 2020, knocking out her front tooth. On Wednesday, July 13th, the Civilian Office of Police Accountability, COPA, announced that Officer Nicholas Jovanovich had resigned from CPT as a result of the assault. The police oversight agency recommended that he had been fired from the police force after it concluded its investigation last year. So he quit before he could be fired. He resigned April 2022 before he could be terminated from CPD. In March, CPD Superintendent David Brown went to the Chicago Police Board and unsuccessfully argued for leniency, according to a Chicago Tribune news report. Because you wouldn't want to send a signal that maybe it's not cool for your officers to knock out activists' teeth who are nonviolent threats to you, but his resignation means that his fate will not be decided by a vote from the Chicago Police Board. We recently received notification that the accused officer facing separation in this incident resigned from the department. COPA First Deputy Ephraim Edie said in a written statement on Wednesday. Boyd learned about Jovanovich's resignation from her attorney on Wednesday. I was a bit shocked, but I kind of wasn't at the same time. It just came out of the blue that he had resigned. So it's like, I can't believe it. Like, are you serious? So the first thing I thought of was he's escaping accountability, Boyd told the Tribe today. He can be a police officer with another police department in another city and state, and that's probably what will happen. And the atrocious events that happened to me will not even be on his record, Boyd added. Do you know that Superintendent Brown had several incidents on his record, I think when he served in Texas or whichever southern state he came from, that was never revealed to city council when they were vetting him?
I'm not surprised by that.
I think I reported on that last year, and I don't remember the details, but it's always stayed with me that, none of that stuff was presented to our alder people in reviewing his appointment. A 2020 paper in the Yale Law Journal called them wandering officers, those who are fired by one department, sometimes for misconduct, but go on to be hired by another police department. I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot of this with those who were irresponsible in Uvalde. This month, former Cleveland police officer Timothy Lohman was sworn into a Pennsylvania police department 8 years after he fatally shot 12-year-old Tamir Rice in 2014. He quickly left the position after media attention and public outrage. The Pennsylvania Attorney General said his hiring violated state law because the department didn't perform a background check. The incident occurred during the Decolonize Zigagung protest on July 17, 2020. Boyd, then 18 years old, was one of the speakers during the rally that drew a crowd of about 1,000 near the Buckingham Fountain. Following the rally, the group marched to the Christopher Columbus statue, and armed CPD officers surrounded the statue. I was initially leaving the protest early, Boyd said. I was about 100 feet from the protest when I started to hear what I thought were gunshots. I went to go see what was happening without getting into the crowd at all. These details were reported last year. So I started recording on Facebook Live, and that's when I saw my friend crying near a police officer, so I headed over, Boyd said. That's when I noticed the guy who was being arrested, and I tried to get his full name right before an officer smacked me. As Boyd was recording the arrest on her phone, Jovanovich extended his left arm and hit Boyd's cell phone from her hand, which caused the phone to hit her face and resulted in several injuries, Copa said. She said one of her front teeth was knocked out. I remember this. I remember the pictures. and the force was so severe that she had to undergo root canals for her 2 front teeth before she could get 6 veneers put in place. She also experienced nerve damage. A viral cell phone video from another protester captured Boyd being hit in the mouth. Look, I could go on and on and on, but this just speaks to why, Dr. Wilson, when you take a step forward in some police accountability, you don't start taking 2 steps backward, so that this kind of escalations occur.
Yeah, we saw this during Black Lives Matter protests, and we see this basically through any kind of protest now. And it's a terrible trend where basically law enforcement seem to be given the mindset that protest is criminal, and that they have to stop it or stamp it out or limit it or shut it down.
A lot of people have said that this also could have been a component of her wanting to institute earlier curfews, so they could also use that as a tool against protesters. Look, I'm going to blow through these last stories pretty fast because, they're just kind of like updates, but they kind of punctuate earlier stories that we've reported on Lightfoot and nepotism in her appointments. Lightfoot appoints former Alderman Michael Scott to Chicago Board of Education that his father once ran.
Wow.
This guy resigned, got a cushy job over at Cinespace, and now he's got a board position he's got a position now with the Board of Education. After his sister was appointed to replace him on City Council.
Blowjob!
Absolutely. The mayor's appointed former Alderman Michael Scott of the 24th, one of her key city council allies, to the Chicago Board of Education. His father once ran. I just wonder what kind of cushy relationship is between the Scott family and Lightfoot. Scott, who abruptly resigned as alderman in May to take a private sector job with Cinespace Film Studios, will follow in the footsteps of his late father, Michael Scott Sr., who was the powerful president of the Chicago Board of Education under Mayor Richard M. Daley. Scott Jr.'s former aldermanic seat is staying in the family. 2. Last month, Lightfoot appointed Scott Jr.'s sister, Monique Scott, to replace him. At the time, Lightfoot dismissed critics who said the appointment was based on nepotism, calling the criticism frankly lazy. Lightfoot also appointed attorney Sulema Medrano-Novick, who currently serves on the city's Human Resources Board, and Paige Ponder, former CEO of education nonprofit 1 Million Degrees, to the Chicago Board of Education Friday. Selecting a member for the Chicago Board of Education is a decision that will impact thousands of students and must be made carefully, Lightfoot said in a statement. Their collective years of experience and dedication will be a great asset to our board and will benefit our students and teachers for years to come. So Scott Jr. previously served as the chair for City Council's Committee on Education and Child Development. Before resigning as alderman, Scott was considered a front-runner to head the Park District, where he spent years working as a regional manager of Westside Parks, but the top job ultimately went to Rosa Escareno, former commissioner of the city's Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection. Scott Sr. also once served as the president of the Park District Board. Monique Scott also spent much of her career at I would like to parse this with the scandal-ridden Chicago Park District, where she was the supervisor for Ellis Park. Scott Jr. declined to comment about his appointment Friday. In an afternoon press release, he said serving on the board that oversees CPS is an extraordinary opportunity to build on his father's legacy with CPS and the continued drive to improve and expand student opportunities, experiences, and outcomes. I'm eager to get started with the Board of Education, he said. I'm sure the money and the graft is going to be pretty good too.
It's just nepotism. Nepotism and BS are what we see from Chicago all the time. We perfected feudalism in the most hyper-segregated city in America.
Pretty much.
And they just, I think they just had like some ethics reforms or something that they're trying to pass too, and just for this kind of stuff, for nepotism.
Yeah.
So it's just really, it's like she has the worst timing.
She's particularly tone deaf and combative when anybody calls her out on how blatantly transparent her nepotism is. So really quick commentary, really quick reporting here on these last couple of stories. So I know that Kathy Powers will be happy to hear this. This has been in the news for about a week. James Kappelman will not seek re-election after 3 terms serving Uptown, I would say ruining Uptown with all of the sweetheart deals he's made, disenfranchising and displacing the poor and the homeless, getting rid of affordable housing. I think his nest is pretty feathered that he can move on now. But, in an email touting his accomplishments since taking office in 2011, Kappelman said it's with mixed emotions he's announcing his retirement. I'm sure many residents of Uptown are probably rejoicing, get the fuck out. And this was reported by Joe Ward. I followed Krappelman's career for some time, and he used to be a social worker. He used to always, rest on his social worker credentials while instructing I think it was Red Cross or Salvation Army from not serving food or setting up meal wagons in the Uptown community because you'd be enabling the poor people in the community there that were homeless. Go Google it. I was shocked when I read that, and that just shared with me what a piece of shit he is. While he rests on his, I used to be a social worker and I know this stuff. It's like, get the fuck out. GTFO. So he touted his accomplishments. It's an incredible experience, blah, 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 blah. Of course, Mayor Lightfoot said, "You're not going to find a finer human being." Mayor Lori Lightfoot said, "I often call him the conscience of city council. Kappelman is such a fine..."
That explains much.
Yeah, right? And that's the barometer that they use. "We will miss him, of course, but I'm happy for him that he's found peace and is ready to move on."
No. We are all the serfs in this world. Thank you, Illinois, for bringing that up. Yes, we are all serfs in Chicago.
So, what is the controversy related to? Since coming to office, Krappelman oversaw a dramatic and controversial development boom in Uptown that brought thousands of new apartments to the neighborhood. And I would say probably apartments nobody can afford. The development wave pushed the issue of gentrification to the forefront in Uptown. Some of those developments, 811 Uptown and the former Cuneo Hospital site and the apartment complex coming to Weiss Hospital's parking lot, which Kathy Powers reminded me of quite a bit, saw heavy opposition from housing activists and even fellow aldermen. Critics say the development that took place under Krappelman's watch, and no, I'm not making a mistake with my pronunciation, caused the loss of affordable housing in the neighborhood and further displacement of poor people and people of color. Krappelman has said the investment in the community has coincided with a significant downturn in local crime, and that that's bullshit. I have a cousin who lives in Uptown, and there's been no significant downturn in local crime. And that new apartments help preserve natural, affordable apartments in 3 flats and mid-rise buildings. From the very beginning, my goal was to help make this ward become a place where any mother with a young child would feel comfortable walking down any street in the ward, Kappelman said in his letter announcing his retirement. Dilapidated buildings have become restored historic structures and vacant lots of new residential developments that offer a wide range of rents, including affordable housing. I'm waiting for Kathy to chime in. Is she here?
Including affordable housing.
Yeah. And why should we have to include affordable housing? Shouldn't all housing be affordable?
It should be. It better be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Uptown Uptown District. The Uptown Square District Center on Lawrence Avenue and Broadway received landmark designation during Kappelman's tenure. The historic Wilson L Station House was also restored at the behest of Kappelman, with a long-planned food co-op still working towards opening the building. New theaters, including the Baton Show Lounge, have come to Uptown's entertainment in recent years, but one thing that has eluded Kappelman's time in office is the reopening of the Uptown Theater. I love the Uptown. That's a soft spot for me. That's the largest remaining movie palace in the country. Make a great venue if they could pull the deal together, and I think actually do some good in that community. But he couldn't pull that together, nor could Emmanuel before he left office. He had set up some kind of a deal, but then the pandemic happened, which I think also impacted that deal. Sitting dormant since the 1980s, and I've been in there, guys. It's gorgeous. It's heartbreaking to see how it's deteriorated. A major renovation and planned reopening was announced by city leaders in 2018, but the project has not yet come to fruition, with the developer backing out of the deal last year. Kappelman said Uptown being recognized as among the coolest neighborhoods in the world in 2020 shows the incredible turnaround the neighborhood has experienced. Residents are now able to access the best of housing, entertainment, dining, and shopping throughout the ward, he said in his retirement announcement, at the expense of displacing people without the means that he pushed out of the community. Anyway, he won re-election in 2015 and was pushed to a runoff. In the 2019 election, he survived the runoff, beating opponent Marianne Lalonde by 25 votes. That was a tight one. Now, Lalonde has previously announced her plan to run in 2023. Angela Clay, another former political opponent of Kappelman's, also intends to run for the seat. So we'll see what happens there. Now, also, Harry Osterman is resigning. Just interesting to see all these alder people dropping out.
They probably know something's up.
Yeah.
Or either that something's happening to them on the side to where, like, oh, wait, they can't be doing business like they used to, so they got to get out while the going's still good.
Maybe it's those reforms you were talking about. Yeah, maybe the new reforms coming in. Really quickly, he's elected to city council in 2011. After time spent as a state representative, he announced Friday he will not seek another term as alder. He'll continue to serve out his term, but won't seek re-election. Loves the community, blah, blah, blah. Email to constituents, touted accomplishments, including reduction of crime, investment in local schools, including Sand High School, infrastructure updates, including the Asian on Argyle, shared street design, and a thriving storefront theater and local business community. I don't know a lot about Osterman to really be critical or comment or praise him. Maybe someone in the live chat can share if this is going to be a good thing or a bad thing. I didn't have a lot of time. I did go in to research. I know enough about Kappelman, and I was looking at his accomplishments, but I looked on Google for any. What did I Google search? Osterman scandals, or I was just trying to find anything that may have been questionable, and I really couldn't find anything to talk about. So I don't know if this is going to be like a gain or a loss for the 40th Ward, but he's leaving too. He claims at the end of this article, as reported by Joe Ward, I will use the remainder of this term to continue the critical work we've started. I make this announcement that at this time to enable those who want to step forward and lead our community the time to prepare and seek your support. So, yep, they mentioned Kappelman, and also the 40th Ward already has one candidate running in next year's race. Uptown resident Nick Ward announced his campaign early this year. So, all right, moving on. This is a really quick follow-up story that we were reporting on a lot last year. That this shows how local community action does make a difference. Newly installed life rings help save man from drowning in Rogers Park. Yay!
Fantastic.
That's one more.
Yeah, I want
one more for the life rings.
Yeah, I want to close the show on a positive note, right?
There we go. Life rings for the rescue. Please, people, don't screw around with Lake Michigan. It is a bipolar body of water that might look calm, but if that undercurrent gets you, you're done for. That lake is very dangerous, not only with the chemicals and industrial waste that's being polluted into it, but also it is a very powerful force of nature. Don't ever in your life underestimate it.
I want to go to the live chat really quickly. I unfortunately, I don't know if you brought these up, Ed, but if you didn't, I want to bring them up really quickly and related to our last story. Kathy was able to chime in. All the improved buildings under Kappelman pushed people into tent cities. And Ilhanar says, yeah, these aldermen who are resigning, they know the end is coming. Rats fleeing a sinking ship. These people don't want to be in office when the shit gets real. That's why they're leaving. We can only...
yeah, they probably got a phone call, be like, yeah, what's going on? Oh, it is? Bye.
So as far as the life ring story goes, a man struggling in Lake Michigan along a Rogers Park breakwater was saved Wednesday evening thanks to life rings recently installed along the lakefront. One of the Chicago Park District's new life rings was put into use just after 7 p.m. Wednesday at Jarvis Beach, where a man was struggling in strong waves, witnesses said. The man was in a rough lake, pinned up against a breakwater. His three friends were standing above him near the end of the breakwater, trying in vain to pull him up, witness Robin Vice said. You couldn't tell if they were playing or not, Vice said. Then I heard him yell, hurry, this is for real. Now, keep in mind, residents along these beaches had installed life rings because of all the red tape with the Park District not being able to put them in. And the Park District decided to remove those life rings that the residents put in because of the liabilities until finally, I think, wasn't it...
residents kept putting him back.
Yeah.
And they kept taking him down.
Yeah, and I think that they reached out to the state and they finally got some kind of mandate push that the Park District needs to put the fucking life rings in and stop this bullshit about the liabilities. You know, they were putting up the Amazon lockers in parks, but life rings at the beaches, weren't as much of a priority.
Yeah.
So
And let's also face it here. Life rings are saving people. We should take half of the police budget and just put it to life rings.
Yeah. I think
a lot more people are going to get saved.
Yep. And our final story of the night, our final positive story, depending on how you look at it. Is that coming up here? Come on, man. No, it didn't. Let me do it one more time. Oh, it's not bringing up the link. Stand by, guys. I'm going to just copy and paste the link from one side to the other as we transition into our final story. There we go.
The elevator, playing music.
Yeah, I didn't get over to it fast enough. So here's the good news, at least via the world community, if you can believe it. Chicago is the second best city in the world, according to a new list. And I believe that there's...
really?
Can you believe it? Let's wait for the ad to pass, and then we'll go into the video. This comes to us from NBC5 Chicago. Yes, paid content, blah, 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 blah. Lucky we've got the audio off. 17, 16, 15, 14.
This ad is brought to you by Flavor Improving Mugs that improve flavor. Do you have a mug that doesn't improve flavor? Well, what are you doing with that mug when you could have a Flavor Improving Mug now available at the merch shop?
If you live in the Chicago area, you don't have to travel very far to visit the second best city in the world. According to the 2022 Time Out Index, more than 20,000 city dwellers ranked Chicago as the number 2 city in the world based on nightlife, food and drink, arts and culture. Whether you want a world-class dining, party until 4 a.m. at historic clubs, spend a day soaking the sun along Lake Michigan, artworks, blah, 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 blah. For less than 53 cities, we typically highlight Chicago's food and beverage scene, naming that as the top reason to visit. So Windy City is the only one in the United States to make the top 10. There's the list.
Really? Huh.
And the breakdown.
Oh, curse you, Edinburgh, Scotland. Curses upon you.
Who's number 3? Which place in Spain? Oh, Medellin, Colombia. Okay.
All right. Well, hey guys, we did it. We came in second place. Now the thing is, what that little list fails to realize, how many of the residents can really enjoy most Chicago when they have to make ends meet? So I mean, yeah, I'm glad we're there, but how much of the population, the people, can enjoy what is Chicago?
Why do you think Lori's over on her European or got back from her European vacation to bring more commerce here? Look, we live in a world-class city. Absolutely. It's beautiful on the surface. What we're talking about here every Tuesday and Friday is the seedy underbelly that needs reform and improvement to really make it everything that it presents to be on the surface. So while I'm very proud of our city, we're still the most corrupt city in the nation. We still have the gun violence we've talked about tonight, the abusive CPD, of which one last time, well, it's not going to be the last time because I have to parse it every time I mention it. I'm not critical of Chicago police officers that realize their job is a privilege to serve. I'm critical of the corrupt ones who abuse their authority, who don't understand they are there to serve, not bully, harass, intimidate, and terrorize. That's what we are complaining about and criticizing when we come to these CPD stories. I want law enforcement to aspire to and serve the way that we would expect and hope them to, that ideal, which they don't, right? Emergency responders, firefighters, they don't fear for their lives when they run into these situations to save people, whereas CPD feared for our lives, bang, bang, bang. Although I did mention this on the Tuesday show a couple weeks back with Kira regarding the Highland Park Police. They pulled it together. They really did pull it together, and I commend them. But, you got to keep in mind, that's a very affluent community where I believe the training for the officers in that community is probably a much higher grade than other areas across the state of Illinois, including Chicago. By the way, the reason we're not live streaming on Facebook is because the automated intelligence at Facebook decided to misread the context of our reporting on Highland Park, the Highland Park massacre, as supporting terrorism. It was apparently sensitive comment to be commenting on what happened. And not only did they restrict us from live streaming on our Hardlands media page for 60 days, they restricted me for 3 days for sharing that live stream. So there's something, keep in mind also, while they're restricting us from reporting on the news or commenting on it, the little shit that shot up all those victims in Highland Park, he had 500 followers on Facebook, was posting his videos, was posting all the stuff that was questionable red or potentially red flag for 2 or 3 years, and nothing pulled there. But if you comment on it, I'm sure that they also pulled it down because I posted it, because I'm, troublemaker on Facebook.
Facebook again, run by Mark Zuckerberg, who has a lot of people from the CIA running that. So, yeah.
That's why we can't live stream on Facebook right now, everybody. We'd like to. However, they looked at that show it wasn't even my hosting. It was Kira. She did a great job that night. So we'll just post links on our Hardlands Media Facebook pages, letting you know when the show runs. We're still always live streaming here Tuesdays and Fridays on YouTube, and we also send the stream to Twitter, which thankfully and miraculously has not struck us there yet. So you can find us there also. Gentlemen, before we bring the show to a close, it was a long one, but a good one. That's what she said. Anything else you guys want to share?
No, I'm just really excited with all the work that we're doing here, and I got some projects I got to take care of Saturday and Sunday, but all in all, really looking forward to seeing what more we can do here, not only for Hardlands Media, but for Chicago Corner as well.
Edward?
I'm happy that we've reached the end of another glorious week here in Chicago, and I am thankful for the opportunity to contribute my comments on a local live stream in Chicago, and I hope everyone will return on Tuesday evening when Kira will be live and whoever else ends up joining us. And then again,
Kira has a special guest that night to speak directly to that story we shared about everybody paying attention to Highland Park, but not our South and West Side communities or violence.
Oh, cool.
In the city. Kevin, what's Kevin's last name, Kit? Do you remember his last name? Let me pull it up in the. We can tease that because we know he's coming, because Kira did share with me that she's got it confirmed. So we will have, or Kira will have, and hopefully I'll have some time to join that broadcast if we do a CAN TV show. So really quickly, it will be Kevin Hobby. Kevin Hobby is a South Side resident who lost his son to gun violence. And Kevin is representative of the many families across our neighborhoods that are dealing with the loss and trauma of gun violence that there don't seem to be preventative solutions aimed at. No pun intended.
Great.
So Kevin will be joining Kira. Hopefully I can jump on that show also. I know Ed will be there. Also, we're resuming our CAN TV recordings. I believe your interview with Danny Boy will be dropping this Tuesday, Kit.
Actually, the interview actually came out on the 14th, but it's also going to be coming out on the 19th on CAN TV, and also on August 2nd as well.
Well, on CAN TV, but now that it's premiered on CAN TV, we'll be dropping it here on YouTube, I believe, this Tuesday.
It's already premiered. Yeah, you already did it already.
Last Tuesday, then. Okay, so I programmed it and forgot which Tuesday it was, but that's there. And we'll have a great episode coming up on CAN TV with the local executive director of the Defy project, which helps find prisoners released from prison jobs and entrepreneurial opportunities to reintegrate, reassimilate with society, which I think is great. I mean, so many people that come out of the prison system don't have those opportunities or are looked at as not worthy of being given a second chance. So we'll announce when that's going to go on to CAN TV. We've got to deliver it this week, but then that'll also drop on YouTube. The Chicago Corner CAN TV show has been a lot of fun to do. We'll have some other great dynamic guests in the future, and we'll keep you updated on that. So, gentlemen, I want to thank you again for joining me this evening. And to my audience out there, please remember as we go into this Friday night to stay safe Watch out for each other. Be vigilant. Take care of yourselves. Return with us next Tuesday when Kira is headlining, and next Friday when I return. And remember, if it's happening on the streets, you'll hear about it here on Chicago Corner. Stay safe, everybody.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.